Hi there everyone, today we are looking at adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, so the technique is relatively straightforward. So what we're after is about, well, if you're adding fractions, the denominator has to be the same. Alright, so if you've got a denominator is the same, then it's not a problem. It's quite straightforward. But of course the denominator is different, then you've got a little bit more work to do. Alright, so you can only add the numerators if the denominator is the same. Alright, so don't even attempt to try and add fractions unless the denominator is the same, because it's just going to be wrong. Alright, you'd be very, very, very fortunate if somehow you manage to obtain a correct answer by not doing what I'm going to tell you to do. Okay, so you've got a quarter and 2/5, so hopefully you can see straight away you do not have a denominator that is the same. So the denominator, in case you weren't sure, is the number at the bottom. Alright, so these need to be the same. So I need to get them to be the same. So what I need to do is I need to convert these two fractions to equivalent ones. So that means I'm not changing the size of them, but I am basically making them like equivalent fractions with different denominators. So for example, a 1/4 is the same as 2/8, is the same as 3/12. So basically whatever I do to the top, I've got to do the same to the bottom. So that's what we're looking to do. So I'm looking for basically a common multiple of 4 and 5. All right, so what do 4 and 5 both go into? Well, 20. All right, so if we go back to my lessons on common multiples, so the idea of thinking about what multiple is, it's your times tables. So what number do both 4 and 5 go into in my times tables? Of course, it's 20. All right, so I need to change them both to 20. All right, so if I'm going to change the both denominators to 20, all right, then I need to do whatever I do to the bottom, I've got to do the same to the top. All right, so if I've times that by 5 to get to 20, I've got to times that by 5. All right. So there we go. Right, so I've kind of said it over here. So we need to times it by 5. If I'm going to change this 5 to 20, then I've times it by 4. So I need to times the top by 4. Okay, so that needs to change to 20, and therefore the top needs to be times by 4 as well. All right, so I've times that one by 5 to get 5. I've times that one by 4 to get 8, and I'm now got to this point. So this is a quarter still, and this is 2/5, but with obviously different denominators. Now that I've got different denominators, sorry, the same denominators, I should say, we can now add. Because when you add fractions, as long as these two are the same, I just add the top two and keep the denominator the same. So I've got 13/20, and that is my answer, 13/20. I should see whether or not it simplifies, but it doesn't. All right, so therefore I've finished. Okay. Right, well, subtracting fractions is exactly the same process as adding. The only way this is going to work if you have, again, a common denominator. So it's going to be very much the same. So I've got 5/6 take away 3/4. But again, I'm looking for a multiple that both 6 and 4 go into. All right, so I'm thinking about my 4 times table. I'm thinking about my 6 times table. And I know they both go into 12. All right, so they both go into 12. So those denominators are going to change to 12s. All right, so when I change this first one, I'm going to double this one. So I need to double this one. All right, so that's what's going to happen now. So I'm going to change the 6 to a 12, so therefore the top one must be 10, all right, because I've times it by 2. I'm going to change this one again to a 12, so I'm going to times it by 3, so I need to do the same to the top. All right, so it's going to give me 9/12. And then, like I did with adding fractions, I'm going to do this just the top bits and keep the denominator the same. So 10 take away 9 is 1. And it's going to be 12 at the bottom. And of course that doesn't simplify because it's got 1 at the top, so it's 1/12. All right. Right, so what happens if you have mixed numbers? Okay, a little bit more awkward because you know they're not just one on their own. So what do I do? All right, there are a couple of ways of doing this. Adding is easier than subtracting, but I'll show you kind of techniques to do either or. All right, so if you're adding whole numbers, mixed numbers with so whole numbers and fractions, then you could just add to the whole numbers and then just add the two fractions. Okay, that works. It does work. You might need a bit more work to do at the end because you might end up with an additional whole number. But subtraction doesn't always work brilliantly, unfortunately, because it depends on the numbers that you currently get and how it works. So your best bet and easiest way is to convert them first. Is to convert them into top heavy fractions first. All right, so that's what I'm going to suggest you do. So convert into improper fractions. So how you do that is you look at how many whole ones you've got and times it by 3, right? Because that's going to give you 3/3. and then add the other 2/3 to it. So it's going to give you 5/3. All right, 5/3. Here, you're going to do 2 times 2, which is 4, and add the 1, which is going to give you 5/2. All right, so 5/2. Now, we're going to look to get a common denominator. So common multiple of 3 and 2, which are the two at the bottom, is going to be 6. So because I've times that by 2 to get 6, I need to times that by 2. Because I've times that by 3, I need to times that by 3. So I'm going to end up with this one being, well, when I double that one to get 6, I need to double that, so it's going to be 10/6. And when I times that by 3, I need to times that by 3, so I'm going to get 15/6. And then I can add the top two, which is 25/6, which again is still a top of a fraction. So I now need to convert that back into a mixed number. So how many 6's go into 25? 4 with 1 left, so it's going to give me 4 1/6. Okay, and that's my solution. Okay, and you'll notice when I look at the question, if I add 1 and 2, it's going to give me 3, and add the 2/3 and 1/3, well, clearly I'm going to have something which is bigger than 1 at that point, which is going to take me into 4. So it's probably a little bit more straightforward in terms of adding them and doing it this way, all right? Because this actually works better with subtraction as well, all right? So there are a bunch of questions online on maths-school.co.uk, where there's a link at the bottom of the page for you to kind of go to. So please get yourself on there and obviously practice and consolidate. And obviously, if it's an area that you need to focus on, then please make sure that you spend as much time coming back to the lesson and practicing as much as you can. All right, thanks for listening.